Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. We want to get started. We've got a lot to cover. And I want to read something here that our distinguished
Town council.
It's from a. This is from a town meeting in Vermont. We've come together in civil assembly as a community in a tradition that is older than our state itself. We come together to make decisions about our community. As we deliberate, let us advocate for our positions, but not at the expense of others. Let us remember that there is an immense gap between saying, I am right, and saying, I believe I am right. And that our neighbors with whom we disagree are good people with hopes and dreams as true and as high as ours. Let us always remember that in the end, caring for each other in this community is of far greater importance than any difference we may have. Now, a couple of details.
You gotta talk right into the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Okay, so clearly we've met a quorum, which is only 40 people. And now Alicia Greco is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think we can safely say we have a quorum. A quorum for us is 40 people. Clearly, we've got 40 here. David Balkus is going to do the return of service.
Is this working? Yep. I attest that the inhabitants of the town of Newbury who are qualified to vote were properly notified and warned of the date, time, and location of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Going to introduce the folks that are here. The Select Board, the Chair, Alicia Greco, Vice Chair, Bill DeMayo, Clerk, Leslie Matthews, Dana Packer, and Jeff Walker. Finance Committee, Chair, Erica Jacobson, Vice Chair, Joe Ali, Gene Case, Patrick Heffernan, Richard Keys, Vanessa Rossi, and Frank Visconti. Town Clerk is Gretchen Gerard. The Planning Director is Kristen Grubbs. Now, there are also some people here who are not town members, but who we want to be able to have speak. So I'm going to have to ask for a vote that we authorize these folks. There's Lisa Mead, our Town Council, Tracy Blaze, our Town Administrator, Eva Pastor, Town Accountant, Patty Fisher, Police Chief, Dave Evans, Fire Chief, Megan Souza, Animal Control Officer, Haley Hart, Library Director, Ellen Cohen, PEG Production Specialist, Jonathan Temple, IT Director, Cindy Currier, Council on Aging Director, Brian Forget, Triton Superintendent, Brian Perry, Triton Business Manager, Maureen Lynch, Whittier Superintendent, and Kara Cosmes. I hope I pronounced that correct. She's the Whittier Business Manager. I'd like to hear a motion to allow the foregoing individuals to speak at this meeting as needed. They have a second? Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Oh, put your butts. Is this set up? We're not for this one. Okay. All right, so that's good. Thank you. Now, a couple of other kind of details. Any amendment requests have to be in writing and reviewed by Town Council. And anyone may, now, if you have heard something for the third time through and you're ready to vote, anyone can say, move the question. But to do that, it takes a 2/3 vote. I encourage that. Most of the articles in the warrant require a simple majority. Any exceptions will be clearly stated and outlined. You can rest assured we will not run out of clickers. Turn off all cell phones, please. I want to again ask for a motion to waive the rereading of the warrant and allow each article to be summarized instead.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion or debate? All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Now, Turning Technologies is going to do a presentation on the use of the electronic voting devices. Is that Jessica? Can't hear
Come up
you.
here.
What'd she say? Where's Jessica? What's that?
They do a presentation.
It's not a matter about whether they're broken, it's a matter of everybody understanding how to use them.
Right. I don't know.
Tracy.
Oh, I think they're doing it.
Go ahead. Yep.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me? Yes. Okay. All right. These are your clickers for voting. You will only be focusing on 1 for yes or 2 for no. There's no need to push any other buttons. They will not work. So they are specific for 1 for yes, 2 for no. If anybody runs into any issues at all, I will be right over there. Brittany, can you wave? I will be right next to Brittany. Come over to me and I will help. For those that need assurance to know that your vote was received, the light will turn green when the vote is accepted. If there's an issue, you will have a red light. You can change your response as many times as you like. However, once the question is closed, your last response will be what's recorded. Any questions? It's not open yet. It's not open yet.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, I would ask that everybody turns their cell phones off, please. Thank you. Also, presentations will be limited to 5 minutes. And questions will be limited to 2 minutes at the discretion of me, the moderator. Thank you. Let's begin the warrant. Article 1. Now, if you look at Article 1, what that is what your ballot is going to look like on May 13th. You'll see that there'll be the question about the override. There'll be all of these positions to be voted on. And that's all that is just what the ballot will look like. Article 2. To receive the reports of the Select Board, School Committee, regular and special committees, and all other town officers, or take any other action in relation thereto. Alicia?
I move that the town accept the reports of the town officers, boards, and committees as printed in the 2024 town report without ratification or authorization of any action.
You have a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion or debate? Okay, we can vote. Use your tickers here. One is yes, 2 is no.
Yeah, vote is open.
Is it open? 1 is yes, 2 is no.
You need to have it up on the board.
Not open.
Looks like I got it. Oh, there it is. Okay.
That's Article.
All right.
That's the wrong article.
Voting on 1.
Yeah. Yep.
One is yes, 2 is no.
Doesn't matter, but still.
Vote again.
2,
Article
yes.
2.
No, 2 is up now. You got 20 seconds left.
Yes.
Yes, Article 2.
You don't vote on it.
The ayes have it. Thank you. Open Space Committee. Going to have a brief presentation from the Open Space Committee. Oh, I'm sorry. Alicia Greco is going to do our welcoming remarks. I'm sorry.
Thank you,
Forgive
Dick.
me. I just got fired.
Thank you. Good evening, town meeting members, and thank you.
Close the mic.
Good evening, town meeting members, and thank you for taking the time on this Tuesday evening to attend our annual town meeting. Since Newbury has an open town meeting form of government, you are our legislative body. It is of vital importance to the future of our town that you stay informed and engaged, and again, I thank you all for attending tonight. One of the Select Board's goals is to develop a budget within the limits of Proposition 2.5 and in compliance with the town's comprehensive financial policies passed in 2017. The budget presented to you tonight in Article 4 is a budget that does not rely on one-time funding sources or unsustainable practices, and that ensures current revenues are sufficient to support operating expenses. In Article 15, we are asking to override Proposition 2.5 to fully fund the continually rising costs of education. We need to raise an additional $400,000 to fully fund the Triton, Whittier, and Essex Technical School District's operating budgets. This approval needs to pass here tonight and again at the polls on May 13 to become effective. Article 17 asks that the town adopt a short-term rental bylaw, and Article 18 asks that we return the accounting for our PEG programming back to pre-2016 methodology. Should these two articles pass, they will create additional revenue sources to help the town offset the rising costs of education. Once again, the town of Newbury received the Government Finance Officers Association's Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for our fiscal year 2025 budget. This national award is the highest recognition in governmental budgeting, and it represents a significant achievement for the town of Newbury. This achievement, coupled with Newbury's AAA bond rating, exemplifies how extremely well-managed Newbury is. I would like to thank our town administrator and the finance department for their dedication and leadership, which has brought Newbury to this fiscal high point today. I would also like to thank you, our town meeting members and taxpayers, for supporting our budgets over the years. You should feel good about how your resources are used in Newbury. Again, thank you all for coming out tonight. Your attendance shows that you care about our community. Now, with some information from our Open Space Committee, I will turn it over to the Chair, David Powell. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm David Powell. I'm the co-chair of the town's Open Space Committee. The Open Space Committee is a group of your fellow residents. Why a committee, and what does it have to do with town government? Are a couple of questions you might have. The committee is currently working with the Recreation Committee to produce a current open space and recreation plan for the next decade to make the town eligible for various types of assistance and is required for state funding eligibility. So what is open space? It's a question we're often asked. It's our beaches, our trails, our woodlands, our waterways, our bridle paths, our vistas, our historic places and spaces, and more. It's our own local natural world. We've prepared a public survey to determine the community's current views of the town's open space and recreation resources and directions for future plans. The survey will be available online on the Open Space Committee section of the town website and in a printed version at Town Hall, the library, and some stores in town, and via our own QR code, okay, which you can just scan with your phone. It takes you right into the survey, which will take you just a few minutes. We also plan a public meeting to explore your ideas and concerns in more detail on May the 20th at 7 p.m. at the Council on Aging Center and in Byfield next to the Town Hall. And I hope that you will find time to come and share more ideas and concerns. We want to engage the residents with Newbury's rich and extensive natural resources and communities. We'd like you to contribute your energy and knowledge to help us achieve better access to open spaces, better information about our open spaces, resources for young people and families, richer, healthier lives, places that feed and sustain our physical, mental, and spiritual health. We can strive together to make Get Outside not just a slogan, but a daily reality for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. There you go. All right, thanks. Thank you. Okay. I really don't even need this mic, you know. I could do it without it. Okay. Article 3. See if the town will fix the salaries and compensation of certain elective officers of the town as follows. Bill DeMaio.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town, fix the salaries and compensation of the elective officers as listed in Article 3.
Second.
Any discussion or debate? All in favor? Aye. Button 1. Is it open? We open the vote? We are. Okay, we're open to vote. Let's do it. Thank you. Passes overwhelming. Very good. Thank you. Now, Erica Jacobson, who is the Finance Committee Chair, is going to speak.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and thank you to everyone for coming out tonight. I know it's not easy to get out on a Tuesday night, especially for any individuals that have family commitments, life in general, and I am so glad to see so many people here taking the time to participate in our civic duty and to represent the town of Newbury here at town meeting. We can go ahead to next slide. I am going to try to keep this short. However, some of the information that I'm going to be providing tonight will lay the foundation for many of the articles. The information that we prepare for this meeting is based on the questions the Finance Committee receives, the rumors we hear, and the general scuttlebutt of what we hear people are saying about what's on the warrant and what's on the ballot. So we try to anticipate and answer and clear up as many things as possible before we get into the nitty-gritty of the articles. So tonight, I'm going to give a quick annual town meeting overview. Then we're going to start by talking about the fiscal year 2026 revenues. We're going to talk about the 2 new revenue sources that Select Board Chair Ms. Greco told us about that are in Articles 17 and 18. Then we're going to talk about the operating budget and why we need an education override. Finally, we'll talk a little bit about our fund balances and upcoming capital expenditures. You can move to the next slide, please. So, Okay, this is one where we are going to do a show of hands, and if you can believe it, this is how we used to sometimes count votes before we had our clickers. I want to know, for how many of you is this your first town meeting? Thank you. Thank you for coming. Do you know I never attended a town meeting until I sat on the Finance Committee? I got involved when there was a crisis in our budget, and that was about 16 years ago, and I have given this so much over the past few years because these are such wonderful people we have leading, working in our town, and the townspeople are so wonderful to come out and vote every year. So, regardless of how many meetings you've been to before, it never hurts to have a quick refresher. Each town in Massachusetts has town government, has to have an annual town meeting. In Newbury, the date is selected by the Select Board. The business or agenda of each town meeting is contained in a document known as the warrant. It is set up to warn the town's voters and residents of items to be discussed. The warrant will include articles, which the town will act on at that particular town meeting, as well as the date, time, and place of town meeting. The Select Board approves and issues the warrant. The articles will be addressed in the order they are approved, and any action taken at town meeting is not valid unless the article was listed on the warrant. So we can't just sneak things in, okay? Nothing can be voted on tonight that isn't already been listed weeks in advance. Once the warrant is closed and signed by the Select Board, posted by the constable, no other business can be brought before town meeting. The language used is legally drafted and reviewed by town council, and oftentimes the language comes directly from statute. So if something has a weird wording, know that we are very deliberate in how they are worded. After the warrant articles are approved, the Finance Committee reviews each articles, asks questions, and votes to recommend. Our votes and rationales are then presented in the Finance Committee booklet. We ask questions about funding sources, timing, estimates, and we record our votes, yay, nay, abstain in the booklet. This year, as we did last year and the year prior, we welcomed additional public comment at April meetings, March and April meetings. At the beginning of those meetings, anyone can come ask a question, and if we don't answer it directly, we will answer it in the course of our meeting through our discussions. We aim to be open, transparent, and have dialogue about the issues facing our town. Then, the Select Board reviews the warrant articles, asks questions, and then they vote to recommend. All of these are recorded as yay, nay, and abstain in your booklets. So if you want to see, in every one of the financial articles that the Finance Committee, we have overwhelmingly voted yay to approve and vote yes on these articles. Tonight, the Select Board will make motions, as you've heard. The motions are what we're voting on. So listen to the wording. So for the financial matters, the motions will include the amount and the funding source. It'll sound something like this. I move that the town will vote to transfer the sum of $200,000 from pre-cash to be added to other post-employment benefits trust account. The amount is clearly indicated. There's no mention of or any other sum. That's in the warrant. That is warning you we're going to talk about it. The motion is that dollar amount stated tonight. Town meeting is the appropriating body. Town meeting has to approve funding for everything we spend money on for the town. This is necessary. You are the only ones who can spend the money. After the motion is made and seconded, the floor will be open for discussion. Our moderator is in charge. And if you wish to speak, please approach the microphone, and then once recognized by the moderator, state your name, address, and make your comment. Comments may be addressed by the Select Board, Finance Committee, Town Council, our moderator, or one of our individuals that we have deemed available to speak. So those are the rules of the road. As you come up, please, we welcome questions, comments. We are here to make important decisions, and you should be able to have all the information you need. So we can move ahead to slide number 4. This year we're going to start with talking about revenues, because it's always helpful if you're creating a budget, and that's really what we're here about. A lot of this is our operating budget, is you need to know how much money you have to set a budget. So in this slide we see the relative components of our annual revenues. This has not changed much over the past several years and reflects what we have to work with. That $21.8 million, or 75% of this, comes from property taxes. It comes from the people who live here, own homes here, and pay taxes. We get a very minimal amount of state aid. You see 1.3 million. And our local receipts, which is like the fees, fines, permits, things like that, that accounts for 2.6 million. So this has not changed and is not looking to change dramatically, but we have to keep looking for places to get incremental revenue that is not right to every property owner in Newbury. In the past year, the Select Board instituted a local meals tax. That was an additional revenue stream for the town of Newbury. This year, on the revenue side, we're looking at two other ways, and we can move to slide 5, to unlock additional ongoing revenues. This is a way to add money to the overall budget on an annual basis that is not based on property taxes. So the first one is the short-term rentals, Article 17. This article paves the way for introducing a tax on short-term rentals, which will provide additional revenues from the individuals who rent properties to vacation with us. This is now a new registry with the state. There is a reason why we have to have the article, so that we have a method to do this. Second, and this is an article that came up last year, Article 18 unlocks more than $1 million in dead capital and creates an ongoing revenue stream that can be used to fund anything in the operating budget, including the rising costs of education. So I urge everyone who is here tonight, I know it's going to feel late, please stay through these very important articles that help pave the way for more revenues in the future. In the short-term rentals one, this bylaw change is supported by all members of the Select Board and Finance Committees. If we pass Article 17 with a simple majority, the Select Board can establish regulations around short-term rentals, and short-term rentals are your Airbnb, VRBOs. Those are the type of short-term rentals these are talking about. And once they have established new regulations, we can work towards implementing a new revenue source to have a lodging fee or lodging tax on those rentals. So again, gets added into the cost of someone renting in our fine community. It's a great place to be in the summer or the winter, so let's embrace this. Let's see where the country has moved, and let's work towards that. The second are articles, and we can move to slide 7. The second is actually, this one has a mix of two articles, so bear with me as we have here. PEG. The PEG is our Public Education Governmental Programming Access and Cable Related Fund. Okay, a lot of words there. In a nutshell, this is the check. This is the money that Comcast pays to the town to do business in the town. It is negotiated, it is paid to the town from Comcast. So it is collected by them, however, but it is not a tax. It is not a tax. It is a fee that Comcast has to pay the town. Out of that, every year we have a special, this is set up right now in a special account, which means it can only be used by the legal purchases that are defined by PEG access and cable-related funds, which means we are limited in what we can spend it on. This year, we are going to spend $65,000 for FY26, and that is to provide the Channel 9 access, the YouTube formatting, all of the things that we have today. That is our cost for ongoing operations for that. And we will maintain all current services. We voted on this every year since 2016. It passes every year as a matter of course. Article 18 seeks to change the accounting method for PEG monies paid to the town. So how we account for it, and then how can we spend it. So, in article, we can move to slide 8, please. Here's why we think this is a really good idea. So, the revenue, the amount of money Comcast sends to the town each year is $173,000 approximately over the past 5 years. Our expenses over those past 5 years has also been $85,000 per year. We are running a surplus of $88,000 a year, or to put it another way, we ran a surplus of $441,000 over the past 5 years that is sitting in an account and cannot be used. That is where it is sitting today. That balance in that fund is $1.5 million. $1.15 million that we can't access. We're collecting. So, that brings us to Article 18, and we can switch to the next slide. How did we get here? Always a question. This was an incredibly well-intentioned plan. Everyone who sat and made this, from the media committee, Select Board Chair Greco was part of that. They thought this was going to be a great way to do it. It would set aside funds for a 501c3 takeover of PEG operations, for a production studio if we built a town hall. So they thought that by setting that aside would be creating a place to have that money to fund ongoing operations and have a source for capital too if we needed it. However, since 2016, no 501c3 or other appropriate organizations have come forward to take the necessary steps on PEG operations. This same article was on the warrant last year. It failed by 2 votes. We've added another $88,000 to this fund that we can't access. So the current balance is $1.153009 and 10 cents. So the proposal in Article 18, if we pass it, is that if we vote yes, we change the accounting, which would allow the fund balance to move out. It would actually close out to free cash, and then free cash gets voted on by this body at a subsequent town meeting on where to put that $1.13 million. The PEG operations that we enjoy today will remain unchanged. All of our services will continue, and the funding in subsequent years would come out of the annual operating budget. So that little bit of our budget that says other revenues, that will go up by that 173, and we'll have a line item in our budget and won't require another article. This also means that that surplus funds is now part of our operating revenue and can be dedicated to our rising expenses for education costs. This change is unanimously approved by the Finance Committee. Select Board voted 3-2 in support of this. I encourage everyone to stay and have your voices heard on these important articles that can add revenue to our towns without adding expenses to your wallets. Now, how do we spend the money? Here's the operating budget. The operating budget that's listed in Article 4, which is going to be our next vote, represents $25.4 million. This is a standard increase. However, and this is a balanced budget, so it matches our revenue, it has to be, and it has to stay within the Prop 2.5. That's why we need the override, is because we have to go outside of that to fully fund education. So this has been completely, as Chair Greco said, this has been done with our financial policies. The Select Board worked with the Finance Committee and the Town Administrator to create a budget, and this is the budget we will be balanced on tonight. If we go to the next slide, you'll see clearly here, education. Education, before the override, it counts for 51% of our budget total. It's expensive, and it's a lot of what we spend money on. So the $12.8 million noted here is still $400,000 short. The override is needed to fund Newbury's educational obligations. If we pass this budget and don't pass the override, Newbury will need to come back and reconsider reducing our budget to cover the non-educational expenses. If we have to find $400,000 in the budget, the Select Board will be setting priorities, and the first things to go typically are your non-essential services: culture and recreation, culture on aging, libraries. All of those are the first things that we're going to that will be looked at to see where can we save money in order to fund that $400,000. So the Select Board would meet to determine those adjustments, and then there would be another town meeting to make that appropriation. So go to, please, number 12. Let's get to 12. All right, we're at Article 15. This is the education override. Okay, heard this a couple of times. The overrides enable a community to levy taxes to maintain level services as well as address necessary projects in a two-step process. Step 1, town meeting authorizes us to spend the money. We can only spend money in here. Step 2, at the ballot, approves raising the tax levy. So both things have to happen for this to pass. So we won't have an idea of whether or not the override passed tonight. We'll know whether or not we voted to spend the money. We will not know until May 13th. So if it passes tonight and passes question 1 on the 13th, then Newbury has passed the Triton budget and fully funds our obligations to Whittier and Essex Tech. And our 2026 budget that we vote tonight will also remain in effect with no cuts to level services as we've proposed here. And why this year? Why is this a big deal this year? Slide 13, please. For the 4 years of FY20 to 24, education costs increased approximately, and this is total education. This is Whittier, Essex Tech, and Triton. This is not a Triton override. This is an education override, all of our obligations. These years, it went up about $400,000 a year. But in the past 2 years, this has changed dramatically. In 2025, education costs went up 7%, or $800,000. We absorbed it last year. We figured out how to do it without putting an additional burden. This year, it has jumped by $700,000, driven by an increase of about $500,000 in our Triton assessment, and Whittier assessment went up $170,000. So again, this is not a Triton override, it is an education override. If you have students, family members in any of our schools that this district supports, this is going to pay for the pieces of education. So all of the schools are facing rising costs for insurance, transportation, those numbers are through the roof, and that impacts all 3 of those. That's why, even though we have fewer students, we still have higher costs, because those things, that insurance burden, is not, that goes up, and our town is also paying more for insurance as well. So that is the reason why we need that. Now, the Triton budget. This does have a unique nuance to it. So, in order for Newbury to, 2 out of 3 towns, hold on, rewind. Okay. If any of these things, again, 2 steps, we need 2 green checks. We need a green check tonight, we need a green check on the 13th. If those 2 things don't happen, we're in one of these situations. Then we will not have passed the Triton budget. Why is that important? We can go to the next one. If 2 out of 3 towns pass the Triton budget, the 3rd town has to pay. So we can all say, heck no, we're not going to do this. Great. Rowley supports it and passes the Triton budget. Salisbury passes and supports the Triton budget. We have to pay that $400,000, and we're back to having to reconsider. We don't have time for another override, which means cuts will come. So we can determine our destiny and show our support for education by passing this tonight and passing this on the 13th. Otherwise, we can be at the mercy of the will of the voters from 2 other communities. So let's talk nitty-gritty here. Let's go to slide 10, or slide 16, I'm sorry. Our average home assessment in Newbury these days is $925,000, and that home would see an additional $130 a year in taxes. This chart is sourced from the one that was on the town website that was provided by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Department of Revenue, Division of Local Services. So if you take a look up there, and if your house is worth little less than 1.5 million, you're looking at $200 increase in taxes over the course of a year to support our education. This calculator will be available on the town website through the election. That is it for the operating budget. So, how are we doing overall? These are our fund balances, free cash. We have to vote that at majority of town meeting. Stabilization, a simple majority puts money into stabilization. 2/3 majority of you all is to get money out of stabilization. We will not be touching the land sale fund at all, and the reserve fund is, the finance committee is the only, that's the voting body there. We handle those things where all of a sudden a roof breaks and we need to make an emergency repair and that wasn't budgeted. That type of request comes to the finance committee. It's listed on agendas, discussed in open, and we vote in public. So for capital expenses this year, I'm not going to go through all of it, but Article 11 will be funded by free cash for $1.8 million, and Article 12 will be funded out of stabilization. Again, Article 11 requires simple majority. Article 12 would be a 2/3 majority. Our Capital Planning Committee Chair, Mr. Jesperson, is here. His committee has reviewed all of these. They were then approved to be put on the warrant by the Select Board, and the Finance Committee has voted to approve these and recommend passage of these. If these articles pass, here are our balances. This is the one thing that is a little troubling, but it's not bad. We will have a low free cash balance, but again, we don't access that money until more money gets added next year. It doesn't do anything to our town. We're not taking on debt. It still shows that we are in strong financial position. And our stabilization account will have $156-ish thousand in there. So, I know I went over 5 minutes, but I hope that it was informative. And as we head into the motions and votes tonight, I'm going to reiterate something I said a few years ago. Please be kind and courteous to one another and assume positive intent, including to our town employees, our appointed and elected officials, our neighbors. Please, everyone here endeavors to do their best work for the common good of our entire community. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Article 4, it's about appropriations. It's about the budget. It's about approving the budget. $25,436,055. The Select Board, 5-zip, and the Finance Committee recommended it 6-0. Leslie?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Can you hear me? Okay.
Speak really close to it.
Really close. I'm going to yield this motion to another board member because I can't move.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town raise and appropriate the sum of $25,094,112 and transfer $341,943 from the Special Assessment Fund to fund the operations of the town in fiscal year 2026.
Do I have a second? Second. Discussion or debate?
Mr. Moderator?
Jim?
Good evening, Dick. I have two, can you hear me? I have two issues here. First, I have some comments and questions on the budget.
Please state your name.
Jim Moran, 104 Elm Street. In the FinCom appropriation booklet, on the appendix pages 56 through 76, there are 19 line items for expenses, and the amounts have not changed from last year, 1 penny, and they amount to $1.3 million. I can read all 19, but that could be painful. This doesn't make sense to me. Can you explain why the average of those 19 is $68,000? 19 is $68,000. Can somebody please explain to me what we're doing here, why we're taking expenses from last year and penny for penny sliding them into this year? Since there's no good answer from the town, I can only assume they don't have an answer. Second question. FinCom has...
Excuse me, Jim? Mr. Moran?
Sure.
I don't
I'm
think
speaking
I don't
here.
think anybody understands the question, Jim.
The question
Exactly,
is...
that was going to ask for clarification. What exactly are you asking of us?
I'm asking why $1.3 million in expenses hasn't changed from last year to this year, and that penny for penny, there's been no change. I look at this as, and that's why it says it doesn't make sense to me, I would expect in those 19 line items, some items might go up and some items might go down. This doesn't appear to be good budgeting process.
The budget is developed with the department heads. It works through Tracy Blaze, our town administrator, oversees the process. The select board approves the warrant and this budget as it gets provided. We make careful, this group is incredibly cautious and makes careful budgeting decisions so that we have ample money in each of these accounts to offset the expenses for the year. In some cases, in some towns and in some businesses, people are penalized, divisions are penalized if they don't totally spend down a budget in order to get the same amount the next year when they know it's needed. In this case, we make sure that every expense is accounted for and necessary. There is no spending down of money just to waste it. All of these numbers are looked at. It's not a cut and paste. If you have questions about specific line items, we can definitely get the department heads to address each and every one of them. Start with number 19.
Thank you. Again, it still doesn't make sense to me, but the voters can make that determination.
Second question, Jim, you had a second question?
That was my first question.
Which one?
That was my first question.
Yes.
Second question, on page 56, FinCom has a line for reserve fund, $150,000. Why is this fund included in the budget and with a current balance of the fund, $142,000?
Did you guys understand the question?
Reserve fund. I mean, the policy is something that we've covered. There's multiple meetings. Some wire. Can I get on mic?
Yeah, the question.
What's that?
Tracy.
Oh, Tracy, yes, Tracy, I'm sorry.
Mr. Moderator, if I understand the question correctly, the reserve fund needs to be appropriated on an annual basis. So at June 30th, if there's any available balances in fiscal year 2025, they'll be closed out, and then they have to have a new appropriation in fiscal year 2026.
What amount do you like to keep in that reserve fund?
Not what I like to keep it at. We generally appropriate this amount each year, and the Finance Committee has the authority to expend it for extraordinary and unforeseen purposes.
We have 2 months to spend $130,000. Do we expect to spend that?
It's unforeseen and unexpected, so we can't foresee. That's
you.
why we have, it's a rainy day savings account that can be accessed if there are, like, if we had a mass emergency and had to approve overtime hours for our police and fire, that is money we could deem for that. I don't want things like that to happen. I don't want us to be found with a place that we don't have our reserves set up appropriately.
Jim, thank you. I think people have heard what your issues are, and I think they understand them. Now I think we need to vote on this, and this is a simple majority. Thank you, Jim. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm commenting directly
Thank
now
you.
on Article 4.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you.
Dick, this is critical.
Thank you. You're all set.
You gave
Thanks.
me
We're
2
going to
minutes
vote.
per question. You didn't.
We are going to vote. Please. We are ready to vote. Thank you. 1 is a yes, 2 is a no. This is a simple majority.
Mr. Moderator, Dana Packer.
I'm sorry?
I have a question. What I would like to do is what was actually touched on a little bit here is I would like to move the vote to Article 4 where we vote on each of the items individually.
We can't do that. We can't do that. This is, This is an expense for the entire community. They've gone through this. I think Erica was pretty detailed in what they've done, and I think we need to vote on this as it is. $25,436,000. It's a lot of money, but it pays for our town. It pays for the education budget, and as was made clear by Erica, I think, if 2 towns pass the budget for the schools, the third town has no choice. They have to step up and do it. I know that from 8 years on the school committee. So let's make sure we have the funds, because if we don't have it passed for the school, it comes out of our regular operating budget. And we don't have an extra $400,000 in our extra operating budget. So, now, we ready to move it?
Wait a second.
Oh!
Jack, I think we need to do it again. I think you
Need to vote again?
Yeah, I never voted.
I think we need to do that again. We need to vote again. I'm sorry, guys. We need to vote again. I don't think we were done.
Okay, so go ahead and tell them to go ahead and vote.
Okay, now, go ahead and vote. 1 is a yes, 2 is a no. Thank you. Well done, folks. Well done. Thank you. Okay, let's get back here to the next.
Yep, got it. Thank you.
Okay, Article 5. This is also a simple majority. Dana?
Yes, sir. I'm ready. Motion. I move that the town vote, raise, and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to be added to the stabilization fund.
Second.
That's not what the article says.
Again, we are voting on the motion that is read by the Select Board member. The motion is, the amount stated by the Select Board member was $50,000 to be added to the stabilization fund. This is a change from when the warrant was written and approved, and that is why we have the numbers in there, and then we make the motion on exactly how much is getting voted. It can be lower than the amounts here. It cannot be higher. So the motion is $50,000.
This is also a simple majority.
Second.
We get a second? We did get a second. Okay. Are we ready to vote, guys? You ready to vote? Okay. 1 yes, 2 no. I get you. All right. I get you. Thank you. Passes, yes. Thank you very much. Okay, Article 6. Jeff Walker.
Motion. I move that the town transfer the sum of $200,000 from free cash to be added to the other post-employment benefits trust account.
Second.
Discussion or debate? Seeing none. Okay, vote. Okay, thank you. Article 7. Alicia.
I move that the town appropriate the sum of $65,181 from the Receipts Reserved Cable Television PEG Access Special Revenue Fund to support PEG access service in programming.
We have a second, huh?
Second.
Any discussion or debate on this? Yes.
If you think that you're going to have an article that you want to talk about, please make your way to the mic so that we can keep the meeting moving as quickly as possible.
Mike Doyle, 6 Morgan Ave, Newbury. Question really quickly. I lost my train of thought for a second. Why can't we've only 65,000 when we have meetings like the other night, the Council of Aging, the meeting in the middle of the meeting just stopped. We have terrible IT service. Let's spend the money and get it fixed. I could, here in the last 6 years, 7 years, the guts of the machine is in the old town hall building. Bring it over, okay, and let's solve the problem. But to have meetings, select board meetings, finance committee meetings, stop in the middle. It's just unacceptable.
So let me just make sure I understand.
I want to up the amount.
Your issue isn't spending the money on it. The issue is covering more of the town meetings.
Right. It's like just spending it, getting a better IT team going.
I think it's a legitimate thing to bring up with the board. You can certainly do that, but thank you. Okay. Vote? Okay, let's vote. Thank you. Article 8. It did. I'm sorry. Yes, it passed. Thank you. Article 8.
Mr. Moderator,
Bill DeMaio.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town authorize the total expenditures for the following revolving funds for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025, to be expended in accordance with Chapter 35 of the Code of the Town of Newbury. Recreation Revolving Fund, $50,000. Municipal Waterway Improvement and Maintenance Fund, $60,596.
Have a second?
Second.
Discussion or debate? Hearing none, we can vote. Yes, passes overwhelmingly. Article 9. Leslie.
I move that the town appropriate the following sums of money to operate the Ambulance Enterprise Fund for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2025. Salaries and wages, expenses, capital outlay, debt service, insurance, Medicare, indirect costs, extraordinary, unforeseen, and prior year deficit totaling $338,602.
Second.
Have a second? Any discussion or debate on this? Seeing none, please vote. Yes, 339, no 21. Thank you. Article 10. Dana.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Motion. I move that the town vote to transfer from ambulance enterprise free cash the sum of $85,000 for the lease/purchase of a new ambulance.
Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion or debate? Okay, let's vote. 25 yes, 23 no. Thank you. Article 11. Jeff Walker.
Motion. I move that the town transfer the sum of $1,800,000 from free cash to purchase the items noted in the Finance Committee booklet.
Second.
Discussion or debate?
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
again, I would like to separate these out into individual items and vote on them individually. Do I have a second?
Any motion needs to be in writing and approved by the town council. You need to put it in writing.
So you're not going to accept my motion?
No. Do you have pen and pencil over there? Paper?
Once you put it in writing, town council has to review it.
Hello.
Hi, Alyssa Diamond, 56 Boston Road. It's my understanding that the town purchased a dump truck last year. I'm wondering what the additional line item of a new dump truck is, what the purpose would be for this coming year.
Somebody want to speak to that?
Marshall, I can give it to you, but I can answer it a little quickly, too. This is a different kind of dump truck. We are replacing a Freightliner. This is a heavy dump truck, I believe, right, Marshall? Yep. And we are replacing it with a newer heavy dump truck. It's 2009, it's shelf life, it's time to go.
And what would be the purpose of the town, for the town? What would be the benefit for us? Where would we see those benefits throughout the town?
Okay. Happy to answer that. The replacement of a dump truck is replacing something that we're already using for the town. When they get to a certain age, and our DPW is really good at getting these things past their retirement age, that we get another one. And so the original dump truck will go to auction, we'll get the new dump truck, and continue with the work that the town DPW does with that truck. Good question.
And where are the taxpayers seeing those benefits of that dump truck throughout the town?
Okay. If you look at another question, but you look at the DPW work in keeping up the roads, snow plowing, clearing brush, all kinds of things that they do, then that is where they would see the benefit. And I would invite you sometime to talk to the head of the DPW, Jim Surratt, and learn about some of the things that they do for the town.
Thank you.
We have a request for an amendment here, and this is from Dana Packer, and it says, I would like to vote items in Article 11 in as separate items. So we have to vote this. We have to vote this first. We have to vote the amendment first. So, do I have a second to this amendment? Okay. What is it?
She's putting it up.
Oh, good. Okay. Okay. Is that the?
It's not ready yet.
No.
They're putting the.
Okay. Any discussion or debate on this?
Could you be explicit as to what?
So all you're voting on now is the amendment, whether to separate these items or not. Okay? One is a yes, two is a no.
Could you be explicit as to what the amendment details?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. We're not ready yet.
Explain, Dick, explain to everyone exactly what the amendment
Here,
entails.
let me hang on a second.
Somebody.
Just tell me to vote the article to vote on
Right.
in separate articles. But this is just for the amendment, not the actual.
Just the amendment. And all we're doing in this amendment, we're not saying to not spend the money. What we're saying is, we're not saying to spend it either, but we're saying what he's asking for is that each of these items be voted on separately. That's what he's asking for. That's the amendment. That's not the vote for the article. Okay? We have a... So if you vote yes, then we will separate and vote for each individual item. If you vote no, it'll be done just the way it said, where they'll be all together and voted on. Okay?
All right, so now they're ready.
We ready? Okay, let's vote.
Thank you, everyone. I do appreciate
So
the
the amendment will
consideration.
be read as follows, as written. Did you have an issue?
No, I have a discussion point, please, Dick. Jack Rybicki, 37 Larkin Road. This question is directed to capital planning, as we're going to be spending down so much free cash. According to our capital plan, the elementary school HVAC system and the elementary school roof replacement system were on that plan as a debt exclusion pursuit. You've changed that funding to free cash, and in turn, we'll spend our free cash down to under the 20% mark, where the AAA bond that you like so much will be brought into question, because we're supposed to have in reserve 5% in our free cash. We'll be down to $700,000 when this is done by this. So I asked capital planning first, why was it moved to free cash from a debt exclusion? That's my first question, please. I asked Marshall or I asked Tracy, who both sit on capital planning.
Finance gets a Finance Committee question, I believe. Yes?
Both of these, the HVAC replacement and the roof
I'm
replacement.
speaking to capital planning, your FinCom. I'm asking Marshall and Tracy, because
Excuse me,
they're on
Mr.
the
Rybicki,
capital planning
I have
committee.
the answer to your question.
But I'm asking the capital planning committee.
Excuse me. The people up here will decide who answers the question. Okay? Is that okay? Thank you.
The elementary school roof replacement and the elementary school HVAC replacement, these are both the final payments of multi-year projects. The decision was made many years ago not to go to a debt exclusion, and over the past 3 years, this town meeting body has repeatedly paid for it in incremental without placing any additional burden on taxpayers. We have done this for the past, this is the 4th year, I believe, Marshall, for the roof 5th year for the roof replacement, and this is the 2nd for the HVAC replacement. The money is there, and we can do it without going to the taxpayers for a debt exclusion. That was decided over the course of the last 4 town meetings and is to be voted on again tonight.
It was on Marshall's plan for 22 to 28 for the record, and Kathy's plan. I'm just asking because it was in the record. And I understand we paid $1 million last year as a down payment towards the finishing up of the funding. And I appreciate your answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now we can vote on the amendment. Excuse me. I'm sorry. We covered the amendment. Now we need a second on the amendment, on the article. I'm sorry. Did we get a second on the article? We did.
On the article.
Okay. So,
Just
ready to vote?
Yes, say go and vote.
We're ready to vote.
What are we doing?
Yes, these will be combined and all done, and a no would be a no for all of them.
No.
No, that's all.
Yeah.
The ayes have it. 289 to 53. Thank you. Oh, is he here, Bruce? I'd like to recommend a good friend of mine, Bruce Tarr. Always, always, always a supporter of the towns and particularly the schools. Thank you, Bruce. Article 12.
I move that the town transfer the sum of $225,000 from the stabilization fund to purchase the items noted in the Finance Committee booklet.
Alicia, do you want to explain why there's $250,000 up top, but we're only asking for $225,000? That's, we're expecting a $25,000 grant for the chest device. So that's why we're only asking for $225,000. Okay? This requires a 2/3 vote. Do I have a second for this amendment?
Second.
I'm sorry, for this article. Any discussion or debate on this? Okay, we can vote. Yes, 40 no. Thank you for not making me do the math. Article 13.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town transfer the sum of $5,987.07 from free cash to the opioid settlement special revenue fund.
Second.
Do you have a second?
Yeah.
Okay. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none? Ready to vote? We can vote. Yes, 316, no, 29. Thank you. Article 14. Dana.
Yes, Mr. Moderator. Motion, I move that the town transfer the sum of $402 from free cash to pay the bill issued in fiscal year 2024 from City Hall Systems.
Second.
This requires a 4/5 vote. We had a second? Okay. This does require a 4/5 vote. Okay, you can vote.
Where'd the next one go?
Oh, it's a big one, too.
27 yes, 21 no. Article 15. Leslie.
Motion. I move that the town vote to raise the appropriate and appropriate the sum of $400,000 for the purpose of paying its full assessed share of the education assessments for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025, required to fully fund such assessments and thereby approve the district's budget for the year, provided that such additional appropriation be contingent on the approval of a levy limit override question under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 59.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, just a clarification here. I think everybody understands this. Erica has said it, and it's clear written here too. This does not mean that we are going to have raised the $400,000. This means that it can go to the ballot, which is where that final decision will be made. So you are voting to go to the ballot to see how the full town feels about it.
We are actually voting to spend the money. At the ballot, we are voting to levy the money, to raise the money. So tonight is to spend it. We need to have both pieces have to happen. The question is already on the ballot, and that will not change regardless of this vote.
Thank you. Okay. Any discussion or debate on this?
If you would like to speak, please come to the mic, get in line. We will take any of the discussions. Thank you.
Hi.
Good evening. My name is Brett Alger. I live at 71 Pearson Drive in Byfield with my family. In 1990, my family moved to a farm town with less than 1,500 people in central Michigan, and we lived our motto, the sweetest little town anywhere around. I knew every business owner, I knew every teacher, every coach, I knew everyone in that town. But my childhood was unique. My dad was the high school principal and eventually the superintendent. I had a front row seat for how the public school provides the backbone and the lifeblood of a small town. The school is the largest building, requiring the most maintenance, employing the most people, and hosts many of the town's events, including theater, concerts, festivals, fundraisers, elections, and public meetings, on top of functioning as a school. The administrators, coaches, teachers, and amazing sports staff, almost everyone that works in that school system desires to work and live there long term. Having people that desire to invest their lives in your town is not a coincidence, it's a feature. The school system builds our confidence, teaches us to manage emotions and relationships, and we fill our toolbox for the next steps in life. We all remember a teacher or coach that impacted our life, and no matter how old we are, we can still think about the friendships from growing up. Graduates from a small town become our teachers and public safety workers. They start a local business, they repair your roof, they fix your car, and they provide your medical care. Our zip codes go on every Triton graduate's application for a job or for college. Creating and maintaining a strong community is a premium value to me, and it can't be measured, and it's not on a school budget or a town budget line item, but is directly impacted by the support we are willing to provide our most vital community institution. Ben Franklin is quoted as saying, "An investment in knowledge pays the most dividends." I can't think of a better example of that than supporting a small town public school. In closing, I don't necessarily ask for your vote, nor can I judge how a $100 plus annual tax increase can impact you, but rather I ask how much you value having a strong and vibrant community. Thank you.
Thank you. Well said. Well said. Yes.
Hi, my name is John Ashton. I live at 2 Lunch Street in Byfield. And first of all, I would like to say that education has always been at the top of my level. I mean, it's so important. I do have a concern with the scholastic standing of Triton High School, and would like the school committee and the select board to address this issue as they try to correct it. I went online and discovered that out of 405 schools in Massachusetts, Triton ranks 223rd scholastically. I said to myself, what could contribute to this standing? And I found out that 80% of the students at Triton use their cell phones in class. All right? How can students learn if they are playing with their cell phones in schools that don't allow cell phones have a better scholastic standing? So if this is something the select board and the school committee could look into to see if it's a possibility of eliminating cell phones in class, I'd be happy.
That's not something we're voting on tonight.
I know that.
But I appreciate the
But it's something,
gesture.
it's scholastic standing and giving money go hand in hand.
Thank you.
Okay?
Dale Williams, Scotland Heights. I would just like to say I thank the administration at Triton for putting together their budget, and I want to thank the school committee for twisting themselves like a pretzel for the last countless years to make this budget work. I'm here to plead to the state of Massachusetts, and I'm directing my comments to Senator Tarr, our minority leader, to say this is the lowest percentage support we have ever received from the state of Massachusetts in funding our schools in this town, in this district. We have a new millionaire's tax that's provided an additional $1 billion to the budget, mostly to go for transportation and schools, and yet we're standing here asking for an override. This is unacceptable in my, and I plead to the people of our town to get the notice of your rep and your senator to say, we need more help in this small community.
Is there any more discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's vote. To 74. Article 16, Jeff Walker.
Motion. I move the town vote to amend Chapter 18, subsection 18-3 of the town's bylaws by omitting the existing language and replacing it as follows. The town administrator shall assume the duties of or designate a chief procurement officer as set forth in Section 11, subsection 8 of the Chapter 447 of the Acts of 2008. The chief procurement officer shall have all the duties and powers set forth in Section 11 and the Massachusetts general laws, including but not limited to the sole authority to execute any agreement procured under Chapter 30B, Chapter 149, or Chapter 30, subsection 39M.
You have a second?
Second.
Discussion or debate?
Dick. Jack Rybicki, 37 Larkin Road. I'd like to address 18.3 that they're speaking of here. At town meeting in 2009, many of the people who are here today voted then and passed 18.3 as a bylaw to keep in place a check and balance for taxpayer spending. Despite the claims of the rationale that this law is in conflict, it was passed unanimously and in concert with the laws Jeff just mentioned. In fact, we put this law into place because our town administrator form of government allows our town administrator, who is already vested with the authority of the town administrator, to also be the director of finance and the procurement officer. This makes it so that there's a lot of authority, a lot of fiscal authority in one seat. The answer for the people in 2009 was to come up with 18.3. The sentence that's not being added on as part of the rationale here is, sole authority to execute any agreement procured under Chapter 30B, Chapter 149, or Chapter 30 and 39M. This is the sentence that is not being mentioned. Provided, however, that for any agreement, the value of which shall be $25,000 or more, prior approval of the Board of Selectmen shall be required. This is about checks and balances. All we're asking is that if we're going to spend $25,000, that she explain what the charge is, and the Select Board gives her a vote. The bylaw formally recognizes the laws that are in place, and all it does is allow for us to know where expenditures over $25,000 are going, so that we're all there. The only conflict here is the Select Board not being willing to listen to the explanation or not asking for the explanation of some of these charges. It's not hard to do.
I don't think it's clear that the issue is that they're not willing to listen. I don't think that's the issue.
You're the moderator. I'm good, Dick. You don't have to critique me. I'm good. Thank you.
Sorry?
Vote no. It's an easy law to honor. It's $25,000, and we should vote on it in the moment. We shouldn't be ceding that authority. Thank you, Dick.
Hi.
Hi, Sarah Goldson, 10 Bittersweet Lane. I have a question. So my understanding of this is that for purchases over $25,000, we will no longer need the Select Board to approve by voting those purchases. So that's $25,000 up to who knows what. So I'm wondering about that answer. And then also, as a citizen, in order to find out what our town is spending, with this in place, I assume you could go to a select board meeting, hear that someone was contracted for an amount over $25,000. The select board would then say who we were paying, the amount we were paying, and the reason we were paying. Where would we go if this were to pass to find out that information in a simple way without having to chase down records requests and things like that?
Well, first of all, let me just say that any contract that that Leslie may approve, excuse me, that we may approve has to be approved by the town council. So there is a check to make sure that the contract is legal, and that is the town council.
But where can a citizen easily find this information if we're not going to be able to go to a select board meeting and see where payments over $25,000 are being made to whom, for what, and what amounts so easily?
Alicia, you want to handle that?
Sure.
Without having to track people down and go to different sources and do records requests and things like that.
Thank you. Currently, the select board lives, the way we actually operate is the chief procurement officer handles all of our bidding, public bid
Correct,
process.
and this is just for her to write the check.
This is a town meeting appropriates the monies.
Right.
So you guys appropriate the budget. Any procurement or public spending has to follow Massachusetts general laws, and our town administrator stays current on that, on all those rules and regs on that. Currently, all of these procurements, they do not come before the board currently. She acts as our chief procurement officer per the act. This is just a bylaw that conflicts. I don't foresee any contract coming before the select board in the amount of $25,000 or more. Us having a debate over that, I can't see how that serves the town of Newbury well at all.
No, I'm just talking about when there are expenses, how often does this occur? Where she's writing checks for, or making payments for $25,000 or more?
Well, we sign warrants, so as the town's bills get paid, they all come before the select board. We had a meeting before this meeting, we signed warrants.
Right, and I'm just saying, as a citizen, right now, I can go to a select board meeting and see where my money is getting written.
But you won't, because these currently don't come before the select board. I'm going to ask the town administrator to actually, or Lisa, to explain the process to you.
Okay.
So I can tell you the process. So the town administrator is the chief procurement officer. She procures things. When a contract comes in, town council approves it, but the town accountant has to sign every single contract to say that there's sufficient funds, which means that it was provided by town meeting, obviously an appropriation. And then the town warrants, depending on the department, have to be approved by the select board, over which the town administrator signed the contract. So those all go through the select board. So you would have to ask for those. You would have to ask for the specific contracts because they would not be in front of the select board. I think that's your question.
So if something comes up that's over 25 grand, what then is the select board voting on currently that the TA would be taking over as a task, I guess, would be my question.
Nothing.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
I think where this came up, I brought this up in a select board meeting, and it happened to be the one where we were paying for the schoolhouse roof down on the Lower Green. That contract came in, and Tracy can correct me if I'm wrong, at $55,000. The money that was appropriated for that roof at town meeting, I want everybody to understand that the money that's appropriated versus the money that we spend are two different things. And what happens is that when the money gets appropriated, it's appropriated right here. When the money gets spent, that's when the bids come in and we write the checks. That particular instance, it was a $55,000 bid that came in that we accepted. So Tracy wrote the check, I believe.
Tracy never writes the checks. Tracy does not write the checks.
Well, I'm just saying, she, I don't know if she's done it yet, or I don't know who writes the check, but that particular check would have been one that would have been brought in front of the select board to just basically just vet it, just like what you said, so that we can figure out how much, because the difference between the appropriated money and the actual check is what gets moved into free cash.
Mr. Packer, Select Board Packer, I'd like to harken back to last year where we talked about free cash, and we actually talked about this roof.
Erica, did you go through the moderator?
Yeah.
Because that's, I think that's a rule.
That's not, she's not answering the question. Can I just clarify things for a minute? I want to be really clear. The town administrator and the select board don't write checks. Right. Let's be clear about that. They approve contracts and sign warrants. The town accountant has to approve all funds that are paid out of the town treasurer, and the town treasurer writes the checks. And that's the process.
I just want to add one thing. This is a $25,236,000 budget. We're talking about $20,000 issues, and they're typically to fulfill something that's already been approved by town council. Excuse me, by town meeting.
Mike Doyle, 6 Morgan Ave. As a former selectman, I just want to say, this takes away another power of you people. Stop stripping the board of its powers. There are only elected officials.
Mike, they voted for it.
Let me finish.
They voted for it.
I know, but the article, they was 4-1. Let me just finish. So, we're the only people we vote for and live in town is the select board. I'm sorry, the town administrator doesn't. I want them to look at all the money that's spent.
Mr. Moderator? Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
The select board signs warrants. We have the warrants available to us. Before every meeting, we can go up and we can review the warrants and we can see how the checks are written.
Yes.
Kathy Pfeiffer Sperling, 10 Parker River Drive. I would just like to see oversight by the select board who we nominate and elect to be more involved rather than having one person. That's it.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator. Thank you, town officials. Bud Kelly, 24 School Street, also on the Board of Assessors for full disclosure. I'm not speaking from that position right now. My comment is simply, I was noting in this that the approval was 16 years ago. And for me, this feels like this is just housekeeping, keeping up with the days and keeping up with the age. I can imagine anybody who's on a fixed income from the government, if they had to stick with 16 years ago formulation, they would probably not be able to pay their bills. So all we're trying to do, it felt to me, is housekeeping to bring it to a number that's more appropriate for today.
Thank you. Okay. We ready?
You got to say to vote.
You ready? I'm sorry?
Tell them to vote.
Yeah, we can vote, please. Yes, 171, no, 148.
Thank you.
Okay, Article 17. This is, not Alicia. Article 17 is Bill DeMayo.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to amend the Town of Newbury general bylaws by adding a new Chapter 77 as printed in Article 17 of the warrant.
Second.
Discussion or debate?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Christina Hoffman at 21 Marsh Ave. And I'd like to comment on this article because it was portrayed as an easy way to get money and not necessarily impact the town residents, but instead impact only folks that will come for a short-term visit to our town. But reading the finer details of the article, there is a little bit more to it, I would say. And I want folks to know that in addition to charging a tax to visitors, the article also requires that homeowners who might be taking advantage of having a short-term rental at their property would now have to take on an additional burden of getting a license, having it annually renewed. It also opens the door for new rules and regulations that could be passed for such short-term rentals. And I just want to note that there's really a wide spectrum of households in the town that take advantage of a short-term rental. And some of them may be very well off and perfectly able to go through the administrative process that's being added to their opportunity to do short-term rentals. They might be able to put together the paperwork, come in, fill it out, come out every year, or come out every year and renew it. But there are other folks on the other end of the spectrum who maybe are just getting by. And they have an apartment in their house, and they just rent it a couple of times. They might be in a really small, quiet corner of the town. They might be on a fixed income. They might be retired. And I want folks to know, before voting yes on this, that there's also an option to vote no. And I want them to consider the full range of town residents that would be impacted by this and the burden that would be placed on those homeowners, in addition to the burden that would be placed on the town, our awesome town hall workers, who would also then need to come up with this process, establish rules and regulations, process all the paperwork, do the annual processing as well, and I think they have enough on their plates already. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can I speak? Mr. Moderator, I wanted to answer one of the questions, or make a comment related to one of the questions, and also add something that Erica did not add earlier. The real genesis of this article is that under the new state building code, the building inspector is required, notwithstanding this article, to inspect all short-term rentals. And the reason that we're doing this is because of the burden on town staff in order to try to find out where those short-term rentals are by using the state system or having the licensing requirement locally. And so this actually is a tool for the building inspector to be able to comply with the state building code. And I would also add that any individual that rents their homes less than 14 days a year, this does not cover. So I wanted to be clear that that was one of the differences.
Thank you. Yes.
Avery Woodworth, 19 Downfall Road, Byfield. Quick question, how are we going to oversee this new regulation? How is Peter going to keep up with all that? He's a pretty busy guy as it is. Is this money coming in from these supposed short-term rentals going to hire another staff person or 2 staff people? How's this going to happen? Thank you.
Could I?
I'll let you answer.
So that's actually one of the issues that Peter has, and this is one of the things that he asked for so that the select board could come up with a process that was easier to do rather than him searching through all of the state files to determine where the short-term rentals are. So the Board of Selectmen are going to adopt a process for licensing. They're going to adopt, penalties that are in here. So they will adopt rules and regulations to help Peter's process go more smoothly. That's a first step that Peter asked for.
I guess that's a step of sorts, but if he really has to go out and inspect all these places, and now all of a sudden we have Plum Island alone, how many rentals are out there? That's going to be an awful lot of work.
There's no question about it, and obviously Peter and the town administrator and the select board are going to have to address those issues, but this is a first step for him.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion on the article, and we have a second. Any other discussion or debate? Seeing none, you can vote. Yes. Thank you. Article 19.
18.
I'm sorry, did I miss 18? I'm sorry. Article 18. Alicia.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town revoke its acceptance of General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53, F3 fourth, which established more than 3 years ago a special revenue fund known as the PEG Access and Cable-Related Fund as of July 1, 2025, at which time the balance of the special revenue fund and any future cable franchise fees and cable-related revenue will be deposited into the general fund.
Have a second?
Second.
Discussion or debate?
Hi, Mike Doyle, 6 Logan Ave. First, I go to Mrs. Greco. I came to the board the way you asked us to, and I asked to be put on the agenda, and it was ignored. So we do want to make a 401c, okay, number one. Number two, everyone that has Comcast is paying 5% on their bill, but it's only the people that have Comcast. If you have Verizon, you have Dish, or you just have an antenna. So just a certain percentage of the town is paying this tax, and you didn't want to call it a tax. It's a fee that comes to town. All I'm saying is, number one, either use it the way it's supposed to be used or give it back to us. And number two, with the law states, monies from this fund shall only be appropriated for cable-related purposes consistent with franchise agreement, limited but not to support public educational or government access TV, monitor compliance of the cable operator, and prepare for renewal of license. It's money that belongs for the PEG access, and we have a committee that will start making a 401c, but you wouldn't even put it on the agenda.
Mr. Moderator, can I respond to that?
Please.
Certainly.
Mike, I know you volunteered to form a committee.
Yep.
One person a committee does not make. The town has volunteer opportunities right now. We have our PEG programming has an opportunity for residents to come and take out cameras and provide all that. We don't have anyone. Nobody volunteers currently.
Because you don't respond to us.
You don't need me to respond to volunteer.
No, I'm not to put together a PEG access committee the way it's supposed to be done, the way the general law is written, and the way that you collected the money for it. You wanted this for a TV in the town hall. It didn't happen, but the money's still there.
No, I wanted this to grow a public access program that never grew up.
You said you wanted it. The last selectmen's meeting.
Mike, thanks. Thank you. I think everybody understands your position.
Finish your question.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening. My name is Jerry Heavey, 43 Main Street.
Excuse me. You have to really get close to that mic in order to be heard.
Okay.
That's it.
All right, thanks. Jerry Heavey, 43 Main Street, Byfield. Some of you may remember me when I was on the Board of Selectmen. I'm here tonight to ask you to please vote no on this Article 18. This PEG account has a huge balance, as Ms. Erica Jacobson indicated, $1,153,009.10. And where does this money come from? I'm sorry, Erica, I have to correct you. You said this is money paid by Comcast. It is, quote, the cost of doing business. That's not correct. I have this month's my Comcast bill, and of the $242 that I pay $8.33 as a franchise cost and a franchise fee. And that's the money that goes and gets collected by Comcast, and then Comcast turns around and pays the town. So this is money coming from all the people who have a cable TV subscription in Byfield. It's not Comcast paying.
Yes, Comcast decides how to levy its fees. The town does not say how they levy their fees. We dictate through our agreement how they get paid to the town. Also, it's not a tax on the fact that you elect as a private citizen individual to purchase a service that has a fee that gets paid to the town. It's not a tax levied by the town. It's a franchise fee that Comcast pays to us as the town. How they levy that is up to them. We do not comment on their business practices.
Yes, but we contract and we negotiate with Comcast, and the last time the town renegotiated its contract, it increased this franchise fee from 3% to 5%. So the question, it gets begged, if we don't have any use for this money, why are we increasing the percentage?
Because it's a revenue stream for the town that was entered into far ahead of 2016. For many years, we operated by collecting those fees from Comcast. The fee from Comcast went into the general operating budget and then was dispersed, and we were paying for these same things. This motion is to go back to that method whereby we can then use those annual revenues to pay for other operating expenses.
Could you just very concisely tell me what your issue is, please?
My issue is that this money was set up to improve the cable TV system, and the town has consistently hoarded this money and prevented anyone from being appointed to the media committee. The last media committee, my husband was the chairman, and they were all not reappointed. And the reason being because if they had a functioning media committee, they wanted to use this money to give money to improve at Triton here. Triton has a station they produce on the second channel, the Viking station.
Okay.
And these youngsters, they're doing a wonderful job with outdated equipment. In 2020, when I was first elected to the board, on the first town meeting that I attended, I requested, and it was passed by the town members, I asked for $95,000 to be given to Triton to use to improve their station. And it was allowed, and it was passed. And the town, the selectmen and Ms. Blaze prevented it from being used. Now, they said it's because,
Thank you.
So,
Thank you. I think we understand what your issue is. Thank
yeah, my issue is the money should be used. No, I thank you, sir. I'm a member of the public, and I have a right to express myself, and I will. So, and it's not been quite 2 minutes. All right. So the money should, there's lots of money there. It should be used for the purpose it was intended instead of having
I
the
think people
TV.
understand what your point is. I really do.
Well,
And it's been
thanks
2
for
minutes, so
interpreting.
thank you.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Moderator.
Yes.
I love these things. One of the interesting, David Powell, 5 Kent Way. I'm very reluctant to get into this, but I'm torn as to which way to vote. The reason is as follows. We've had some very, how shall I say, specious numbers provided to us tonight about what this money is and how much we get and what we can expect in the future. Unfortunately, none of this seems to take into account that the whole media and information world is shifting very rapidly, and the fact is that we may not be getting the kind of money from Comcast in the future that we're getting now. So I think you have to ignore some of the sort of ideas that we're going to have this $90,000 rather, surplus every year. Because what's happening is, and you people are doing it, you're switching to streaming. You're getting out of Comcast. So one of the things I would simply like to say is that I can understand why the Finance Committee took one look at a number that had 6 zeros after it, okay? They all lit up and tilted and said, wow, what we could do with this. Also, I think it was a little uncalled for that it should be recommended that it should be put towards education. There are lots of other things in the town, though we are, I know, in an education crunch. Okay? The last thing I would say is, if you vote for this, then please hold the feet of the select board and anyone else you can think of to the fire to improve our disastrous website and its connection to the whole area of communication. Because tonight I went to see on our records on our website what we did last year, and that's not posted. You can't find it.
I think you eloquently have stated what your position is. I think people understand it. I think it's something for people to evaluate.
Okay.
I'd like to add a point of clarification there.
Town council has something to clarify on that.
I just want to be clear that if this motion passes, just so the body knows, the money will fall to free cash and it has to come back out here to be appropriated next town meeting.
Avery Woodworth, 19 Downfall Road. Thank you for that clarification. However, I'm a bit leery to have $1 million thrown into free cash. Is there a happy medium if we vote this down tonight? I think it should come back, and maybe that money should at least go towards only educational expenses. And I agree, I was at that town meeting when we voted $95,000 to improve the studios. Why these studios aren't kept up to date, why Triton's sound system isn't always kept up to date. This money could go towards educational uses only.
I think we have an answer for that.
So the money has to fall from an accounting and state perspective to free cash, but it then comes here. In order to spend free cash, it has to come here to be appropriated, and so you could appropriate it to education or cable or whatever it is that you want to do, but it has to come back, it has to fall to free cash and come back here.
Which is awesome in principle, but in reality, that's hard when we have bundled packages of $25 million and we just voted on a town budget without even going through the line items, which we used to do in the old days. But having said that, I understand it's a huge budget and we can't do that. But again, I'm not sure that the general population is going to be able to pull those numbers out and know where that money really went. And that does make me a little bit nervous.
If this money closes out to free cash, that's the legal mechanism. It can't just go to education. We have to close it out legally this year to free cash, which means it sits untouched until this body meets again next spring at annual town meeting, and there will likely be a warrant article to say where that money goes. And again, that will follow all of the accounting principles and the town's financial principles. So there'll be a mechanism by which this body will be able to do that. We can't do that unless we pass this article first. We can't make where we want it to go until this passes. And that will be under the purview, again, the select board is the one that writes the warrant articles, and they would be deciding how that money, how an article is written for next year. Okay? It's just a process. And
no, I understand it's a mechanism. Is there any other mechanism that can be created to open another account?
No, that's why we have to bring it to town meeting to get this. We cannot unlock this money until a vote. The only way to get the money out of that fund is to vote here at town meeting to put it into free cash.
Thank you. Frank Visconti, 18 Rolfs Lane. I'm a member of the Finance Committee, but I'm not speaking on behalf of the Finance Committee. I agree with what Mr. Powell had to say. The nature of media has changed drastically since this idea was first conceived maybe 16-ish years ago to start, when it was first talked about. You needed a studio, you needed equipment, you needed lots of very high dollar stuff. You all possess the ability to have 10 million followers in your pocket. This phone cost me $200. There's not a lot of TikTokers in here tonight, I don't think, but that's it, right? That's it. But right now, we are sitting on dead capital. We have $1 million of dead money. That is the equivalent of mattress money. And we are not in a position to have mattress money right now. We do have better uses for capital. And yes, that money was intended for, I hear often, the kids' education, whatever. And that's, I'm certain, where it's going to be put. But we don't need to spend it on equipment anymore. We need it in other places. And we have the ability to have a very robust media center for a couple $100 worth of equipment. So let's do that.
My name's Grace Heselton. I live at 85 Scotland Road. I just want to mention about the media center here for the students, that they have to raise money. They never have the money to have everything that they need. They have to go through Tempo to raise the money. They have a great podcast system at the high school. It would be great money for them to put in for that if this gets passed for next year, to allocate this money to go towards Tempo or the Triton Arts, because that's what the money should go to.
Thank you.
Mr.
Article
Moderator.
19.
18.
Mr. Moderator.
We have to vote on 18.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jesus. Okay, we're on 18. Yes.
Yeah, I just want to, Frank and I have had pretty good discussions over this issue. And I want to just, using his analogy about mattress money, I want to just talk a little bit about the town hall fund account. And you can...
Move the question.
Second.
She can't interrupt. She can't interrupt.
You have to let him finish.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I just want to say that you can use the same analogy to the money that's in the town hall fund right now. That money, I don't see it in capital plans as something that's going to be moved, I would say, within the next 5 years. And that money right there falls in the exact same category that Frank is talking about. That's all I have to say.
We have a motion to move the question. It takes a...
Yeah, I don't think we need to.
We don't need it?
No, he didn't. Nobody seconded it. So.
Okay, all right. Okay, I guess we can vote. Thank you.
Yeah. Save you.
Boss.
Oh, I saved you.
Yeah. Yes, for 19. No.
89.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Now Article 19. Leslie?
Motion. I move that the town vote to accept GLC 59-5, Clause 221, as added by Section 23 of Chapter 178 of the Acts of 2024, an act honoring, empowering, and recognizing our service members and veterans.
Second.
Have a second?
Yeah, Alicia seconded.
Is it?
Yeah.
Thank you, Alicia. Discussion or debate on this? Seeing none, we can vote.
Here, a little there.
Yes. Article 20, which is also called, I might add, the HERO Act, because it is recognizing service members, and it's appropriate that Dana read this as a veteran in good standing in the Air Force. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Motion. I move that the town vote to accept General Law, Chapter 59, Subsection 5, Clause 22J, as added by Section 23 of Chapter 178 of the Acts of 2024, an act honoring, empowering, and recognizing our service members and veterans.
Second.
Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's vote. Article 21. Who is?
Me. Motion.
This is Jeff?
Yep.
Yep.
Motion. I move that the town amend Chapter 56 and 109 of the Town of Newbury General Bylaws as printed in Article 21 of the warrant.
Second.
Discussion or debate?
Christopher Christock, 22 Temple Boulevard West. I'd just like to speak in favor of this article, in particular 56.5. I hope that the town will take measures to vigorously enforce that portion of the article, and I would suggest that the Finance Committee is looking for ways to raise revenue without impacting the tax base. Based on my personal experience, I'd say that during sunny days during this time period, you can realize revenue in excess of $1,000 per day by policing this rigorously.
Thank you. This requires a 2/3 vote.
No, simple majority.
I'm sorry?
Simple.
Oh, simple majority?
Excuse me.
Yes.
Catherine DeLay on Elm Street. I'm just curious, the section here that says, animal control officer is authorized to require owners and keepers of dogs to restrain their dogs from running at large in schools, playgrounds, park, or rec areas. Is this, do we have a leash law in this town that I missed?
No.
So if a dog is just somewhere, because they don't have to be leashed, this is just saying if they're somewhere that a dog officer can come and take them? Is that, how is that not a leash law?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
What section?
If I'm reading this right, on page
Which
13.
section? Which section is this?
Page 13, it's section, I don't know what it is. It's at the top of the page. It's 56-2. And the animal control officer is authorized to require owners or keepers of dogs to restrain their dogs from running at large.
Okay.
That's not being changed. That's already in the bylaw. That exists in the bylaw. It's not proposed to be changed. That's just repeating what's in the bylaw right now.
Okay, and,
So if it's not underlined, it's not changed.
okay, and that's not a leash law?
That's not.
It is not.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I'm sorry, this is a simple majority. And I believe we can vote. Thank you. Article 22, Alicia.
No, we're going to have a planning board presentation.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. That's right. Planning board will make a presentation for this first.
Yeah.
Who will that be?
Woody is behind you.
Oh, Woody is. Woody's right. That's right, Woody. All right. Thank you. All right, Bill.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, everyone. I am Woody Knight, Chair of the Newbury Planning Board. I have my Planning Board report this evening. On behalf of the Planning Board, I would like to give the Planning Board report regarding the zoning amendments proposed in Articles 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, and 29 on the warrant for this annual town meeting. As required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 5, the Planning Board has held a public hearing on these proposed zoning amendments in February of this year. The board opened the hearing on February 19, 2025, and continued it on February 26, 2025. On that date, the hearing was closed, and the board voted unanimously to submit the proposed zoning amendments to the Select Board for inclusion on the town meeting warrant. The Planning Board recommends adoption of all these proposed zoning amendments. The rationales for these zoning amendments are included in the Finance Committee's appropriation booklet, copies of which were given to town meeting attendees. In addition to that information, I would like to give a brief overview of the warrant articles. We will be happy to answer any questions regarding individual articles as they come up to vote. So for the slide presentation, slide number 1, please. This slide outlines the process that has been followed in bringing these proposed zoning amendments to the town meeting, starting in December 2024, when the Planning Board held the first of several discussions on proposed amendments during various regularly scheduled meetings, and ending with public hearing in February. Next slide, please. The Planning Board is proposing these zoning amendments for two primary reasons. First, to address revisions and updates required for compliance with new or updated state and federal laws or regulations, including new flood maps issued by FEMA, EPA, storm regulations, Massachusetts laws, regulations regarding marijuana establishments, and the Massachusetts Affordable Home Acts. Second, as part of an ongoing review of our zoning bylaw, known as the zoning recodification, which is being done by the Planning Board, planning staff, and Town Council, revisions are proposed to update outdated and inconsistent terms and definitions, make housekeeping corrections and edits, clarify sections of the bylaw which are ambiguous in order to improve the permitting process for both applicants and the town's permitting boards, eliminate some redundancies, and bring the bylaw into compliance with recent case law. Next slide, please. Slide 3. This slide lists the warrant articles related to the proposed zoning amendments. These articles are Articles 22 through 29. Next slide, please. Slide 4. Warrant Article 22 proposes to make certain global changes throughout the zoning bylaw to correct inconsistencies in the spelling of the word bylaw, to change Board of Selectmen to select and Selectmen to Select Board, and to authorize creation of a table of contents after the proposed amendments are adopted. Next slide, please. Slide 5. Warrant Article 23 proposes to replace the existing language of Section 97-1 with new language which is more consistent with the language of Massachusetts general law, and which includes provisions which are missing from our current bylaw, including provisions related to conflicts between the zoning bylaw and other bylaws and covenants in town, the validity of actions taken before the approval date of this bylaw, severability of certain provisions of this bylaw are found to be invalid, and the scope and applicability of this bylaw. Next slide, please. Slide 6. Warrant Article 24 addresses required changes and actions related to the revised Essex County Flood Insurance Rate Map, also known as FIRM, F-I-R-M, which has been issued by FEMA in which will go into effect on July 8, 2025. The previous map changes, which were made in 2012 and 2014, focused on coastal flooding. These new changes focus on inland flooding along our rivers. In order for the town to remain in the National Flood Insurance Program, NFIP, town meeting must do two things. Vote to adopt the new flood map. And number two, vote to adopt the changes to our flood hazard bylaw, section 97-4E, and a related change to section 97-2D to be consistent with FEMA requirements. The proposed revisions to our existing bylaw have been reviewed by staff at the Division of Conservation and Recreation, also by Town Council, as well as our planning staff and planning board, to ensure that these requirements are being met. Next slide, please. Warrant Article 25 proposes changes to several sections of Article 5 special permits in the zoning bylaw. Some of these proposed changes are in response to issues that have come up during the permitting process for certain special permit applications, and some are being made to bring provisions into line with recent case law and current state law. First, this warrant article adds new language to 97-5A, which to provide guidance on procedures and decision criteria for the general special permit applications which do not have specific requirements and criteria elsewhere in the bylaw. These added provisions will benefit both applicants and the town's permit granting boards by giving applicants a clear idea of what requirements need to be met, and by giving boards clear guidance on factors which can be considered in reviewing a special permit application. Number two, second, it revises some provisions in the town's open space residential bylaw, 97-5C, to clarify language that is ambiguous and to bring the bylaw into compliance with recent case law. Third, it revises section 97-5D, common driveways, by adding a provision granting the planning board authority to waive one or more of the design specifications in certain instances where an alternative design is warranted, and by revising the provision regarding submission requirements. And fourth, it consolidates the town's two zoning bylaws regarding marijuana, 97-5G and 97-5H, into one bylaw for both medical marijuana treatment centers and marijuana establishments, eliminating unnecessary redundancy. Next slide, please. Article 26 proposes revisions to 97-9A, site plan review, to add a provision requiring a pre-construction conference as recommended by the town stormwater consultant to be in compliance with the requirements of the town's municipal separate stormwater system, MS4, general permit. Expand the decision criteria that the board uses in reviewing a project to include language regarding light pollution and dark sky compliance standards for exterior lighting and energy, water, and resource efficient design. Next slide, please. Slide 9. Article 27 proposes added language to section 97-10C, customary home occupations, to address a discrepancy between this section and the tables of use regulations, which requires a special permit for certain uses. This language is added to clarify that a use which requires a special permit cannot be considered a customary home occupation. Next slide, please. Slide 10. Article 28 proposes to replace the town's existing section 97-10D accessory apartments with a new accessory dwelling unit bylaw that is compliant with the Massachusetts Affordable Homes Act, which became effective on February 2nd, 2025. Under this law, municipalities are required to allow the construction of accessory dwelling units, meeting certain parameters in all zoning districts where single-family dwellings are allowed, without the need for a special permit or other discretionary approval. This by right approval applies to both accessory dwelling units attached to existing homes and accessory dwelling units located in detached structures on the property. Next slide, please. Slide 11. Article 29 proposes revisions to Section 97-11. Administration of zoning bylaw to add provisions regarding building permits to Section 97-11A enforcement. Add a provision regarding dimensional variances to Section 97-11B zoning board of appeals. Delete the provisions for special permits in 97-C since these have been revised and relocated to Section 97-5. And revise, update, add, delete certain definitions in Section 97-11C, written definitions. And that's in mouthful. And thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rodgers. Just choose stuff.
Yep, get it all done. Okay. All right. So, Article 22, Alicia.
I move that the town vote that the town approve the global changes throughout the zoning bylaw as set forth in Article 22, and further that the planning director be directed to thereafter create a table of contents for the zoning bylaw.
Second.
Discussion or debate? This requires a two-thirds vote. We can vote. Article 23. Bill DeMayo.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to amend Article 1 of Chapter 97 of the Town of Newbury zoning bylaw as printed in this Article 23 of the warrant.
Second.
Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, we can vote. Yes, 21 no. Okay. Article 24. Get to the back of this. Is this Leslie?
Leslie,
Leslie.
Yep. This is Leslie, please.
Yes. I move that the town adopt the Essex County Flood Insurance Rate Map firm effective July 8, 2025, and amend Chapter 97, Article 2, Section 97-2D, and Article, what is it, 6, 4? 4-97-4E of the Town of Newbury zoning bylaw as printed in the Article 24 of the warrant.
Second?
Second.
Somebody?
Second.
Any discussion or debate? Let's vote.
motion.
What's the number? I can't see that. What is that? What is that? I don't know, 146 maybe? It went away.
Thank you. Article 26, Jeff Walker.
Article 25. Article 25.
25. Did we miss 25?
Yep.
I guess I did. Sorry about that.
25.
And that's Bill DeMayo. Article 25 is Bill DeMayo.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town amend the Town of Newbury zoning bylaw as set forth in Article 25 of the warrant.
Second.
Discussion or debate? We can vote. The two-thirds vote here required.
Yes.
Article 26.
Motion. Motion. I move that the town amend Section 97-9, parentheses A, site plan review of the Town of Newbury zoning bylaw as printed in Article 26 of the warrant.
Second.
Discussion or debate? We can vote.
Zero.
Vote now.
We have 27.
I don't know what that number is. 15. What's the number?
Article 27, Alicia.
I move that the town amend the Town of Newbury zoning bylaw, Chapter 97, Article 10, Section 9710C, as printed in the Article 27 of the warrant.
Discussion or debate?
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Hearing none, we can vote. Article 28.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town amend Article 10, Section 97-10, Point D of the Town of Newbury zoning bylaw, Chapter 97, as printed in Article 28 of the warrant.
Second.
Discussion or debate? Hearing none, we can vote.
This is a simple majority.
Is that 29?
No.
28, yeah.
Do you need it, Leslie? Do you need the last?
The last page.
The very last page. She's got it right here. Go ahead, just read that.
29, Article 29. Leslie?
I move that the town amend Section 97-11, Town of Newbury zoning bylaws as printed in the article, in this Article 29 of the warrant.
Second.
Discussion or debate? Seeing none, we can vote. time to adjourn. And those of you that have stayed, I respect you and I appreciate you. And I will say that to get through this in 2.5 hours to me was pretty impressive. Thank you very much for being so cooperative. I need a vote.
Motion to adjourn.
There's a motion behind us.
No.
Yeah, second.
Jeff seconded. All in favor?
Okay, motion to adjourn. Get a second?
Yes.
All in favor?
Yes.
I mean, I'm sorry. Motion to adjourn. You can vote. I agree. You can vote. I think we're all in favor. Thank you, everybody. Well done.